Andrew's Amazing Monsters by Catherine Hook Berlin. Illustrated by Maxie Chambliss. Andrew loved monsters. He watched monster movies and bought monster toys. He even painted monsters on his shirts and sheets until his mother took his paints away. After that, his father brought home a big package of white paper and a box of crayons. Andrew's father said firmly, "These are magic monster crayons, but they only work on paper." Andrew loved his magic monster crayons. Every day he drew monsters, big monsters and little monsters, tall, skinny monsters and short, fat monsters, green, scaly monsters, and slimy yellow monsters. The more monsters Andrew drew, the more amazing they looked. Andrew drew striped monsters, plaid monsters, rainbow monsters, monsters with 33 toes with terrible claws, monsters with 9 heads filled with needle-sharp teeth, monsters with great flapping wings and fiery breath. Andrew covered his walls with monster pictures. His monsters looked so real they seemed to wiggle and roll their eyes. Andrew would smile and say, "Sit still, monsters." One night, Andrew drew party hats and horns for all of his monsters. His monsters seemed to shuffle their feet and wag their tails. Sighing, Andrew said, "I wish we could have a real party." When he was climbing into bed, Andrew heard his monsters giggling and whispering. Andrew shushed them and said, "Go to sleep, monsters." And everything was quiet. Later, Andrew was awakened by more whispering and rustling in the dark. He clicked on his flashlight and looked around the room. His monsters were gone. Only the empty papers hung on the wall. Andrew searched his room. He looked in his closet, under his bed, and behind his dresser. He couldn't find the monsters anywhere. Climbing up on his bed, Andrew frowned and called, "Where are you hiding, monsters?" But the monsters didn't answer. Andrew switched off the light and peered into the blackness. His door creaked open. Something shuffled and snuffled and gruffled out the door. Something flopped and hopped and clopped down the hall. Something thumped and bumped and jumped up the attic stairs. Something giggled and groaned and wiggled and moaned in the attic. Andrew eased off the bed and flicked on his flashlight. He tiptoed down the hall. He slipped up the stairs. At the top of the stairs, Andrew heard hissing and shhing behind the attic door. Andrew threw open the door. His monsters filled the room, howling and hooting, writhing and wriggling, chortling and cheering. They shouted, "Surprise, Andrew!" After a wonderful party, Andrew smiled and said, "Time to go to bed, monsters." Together they thumped and bumped and jumped down the attic steps. They flopped and hopped and clipped along the hall. They shuffled and snuffled and gruffled into Andrew's room. Andrew's monsters hurried and flurried and scurried onto their papers. As Andrew climbed into his warm, cozy bed, Andrew smiled and said, "Go to sleep, monsters." And this time they all did.